Alright, so now we're ready to import some footage. Before we do that, however, though, just a little bit of housekeeping. So first off, let's go ahead and rename our library. So if you go over here, you can click on that, and we'll name it FCPX marks the spot training. Now let's go and make sure that we have this saved where we want it. So if we go up to File, Reveal in Finder, it'll show you where this is. And right now this is sitting in our default movies folder, which is someplace that I never want it. In fact, it looks like this is a library I started and then forgot that it was here. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. But if we want to move this, we simply take it and I'm going to drag it into the folder on the desktop where all my other Final Cut Pro X things are. Now if I double click this, I have my Final Cut Pro X Marks the Spot training library right here in my folder with all the media. Now, in essence, you would put that on your internal hard drive, and your media generally is going to go on an external hard drive. But for my case right now, I have enough room on my internal hard drive to store the media there as well. If you remember back from our media management lesson, there are various reasons why you'd want to have different things on different hard drives. But go ahead and click out of this guy, and now that we have it saved. And we'll also come down here and rename this event as Media. And let's go ahead and lasso all these. Right click and click Move to Trash. We'll go OK. We want to get rid of this as well. Project File, Move to Trash. All right, so now we have a pretty much empty project, or library as they call it in Final Cut Pro. We go to our media right here, event, and let's click on Import Media. Now you can import media from a number of different sources such as camera cards, hard drives, tape decks, even from your computer's built-in camera while you're recording. Now while there are a number of features that come and go depending on the source of your media, for the most part your options here are the same. We're going to take a look at both importing from files, the ones that we tagged at the Finder level previously, and from a camera archive, which is akin to importing from a camera card. It's up to you how you want to organize your media per project, with each event being a shoot day, a camera card, a scene, episode, etc. And this often changes depending on what kind of project you're on, but I've decided to have a separate event for all of my media, and use my keyword collections to organize my footage further from there into individual lessons, scenes, and other divisions. Now go ahead and navigate to where you have your Final Cut Pro media, and we're going to go into the Camera Masters folder right here. And before we import this footage, let's go over here to the right and check out our various import settings. Now up on the top, this is where you can either add your media to an existing event, or you can create a new event upon import. In this case, we're just going to add it to the existing event of media. Down over here, Files, Copy to Library. We changed that away from this before because we don't want to copy any media internally into the library itself for Final Cut Pro, but rather leave those files where they are in place on the computer and just have the library pointing to those files inside of Final Cut Pro. That way it keeps the size of your library, or project file as it's more commonly known, down so you can more easily share it and back it up. Now keywords from Finder tags, obviously we've selected that because we have put Finder tags on our footage. And you can also have it create keyword collections from folders. This I sometimes leave selected, I sometimes don't, depending on how I've organized my footage at the Finder level. In this case, I pretty much know we have just that one folder with scene numbers added as metadata tags, so I'm actually going to deselect from folders. Sometimes when you're dealing with certain cameras, you get folders within folders from the raw material off the camera, so you want to be careful because you don't want a keyword collection for each one of those. But make no mistake about it, it's a useful function. Also, you can assign your audio roles automatically upon import, or you can manually tell them which you want it to do. We'll go over more in detail what an audio role is later. And you can also assign that IXML track data from your 633 recorder or other more high-end recorders that can add such metadata on set. You have your transcoding options right here, which you can either create optimized media if you are dealing with lower quality footage, H.264 from extremely compressed DSLRs. And you can also create proxy media if you're dealing with extremely high-res footage, like Red 8K. That's not going to play on your computer, really, so you're going to have to create proxy files to play in real time. I'm going to deselect these because we're dealing with pretty standard 1920 by 1080 footage. Now down the bottom over here, analyze and fix. This is really more optional to dive into later. You can analyze the video for color balance. You can find various people if you're importing from tape. And you can also analyze and fix audio problems. You can separate mono and group stereo audio, and you can remove silent channels. For now, let's leave all of these unselected. Not that they aren't helpful, but they tend to slow down import because of all the analyzation that needs to happen. So if you're in a time crunch, if you're on set DITing, I highly recommend not using these, at least initially. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to be leaving files in place over here on the computer rather than copying them to the internal library. But before we move forward and import anything, let's go ahead and click out of here. Let's just navigate up over here to your library sidebar, click on your main library, and then come all the way over here to your right to the library properties. So it'll be in your inspector panel if it's not already open. And if you click on the modify button here on the top with the blue, you'll see this is basically just for your color processing settings. But if you click on the modify settings in the storage locations below it right there, you'll see this is where you set your locations for your media, your motion content, your backup cache, etc. So if we go to here where the media is, this is where you would be copying media if you were coming in from a camera archive or a camera card of some kind. In our instance, we're going to be leaving them in place, but if you click choose right here, you'll see that you can easily navigate here anywhere on your computer. Generally, I would be putting this onto an external Thunderbird drive. In my case, this is my RAID, my fastest drive for external media. Go ahead and click cancel. You'll see you also have your motion content. This generally, it's believed you want to leave in your motion templates folder, which is inside your local library, just because if you take this anywhere else, you're going to lose that, and you don't want to do that. Cache files, you're generally going to want to store on a solid state drive, external, or in some cases, if you are relying on your internal hard drive, let's say it is an internal SSD, like in MacBook Pro cases, you could set this to be internal as well. Backups, that's really up to you. Because Final Cut Pro is constantly backing up in the background anyway, I tend to just put my backups either onto my desktop or right next to my cache files, and then I will delete those at the end of the day, because that's really what they're there, is just for temporary backups during the day if you have a crash. And like I said, Final Cut's pretty good with saving in the background every keystroke regardless. Alright, so let's click out of here. And let's go ahead and go back to your import window, or hit Command I. So go ahead and come over here and just select all your clips. You can use the shortcut Command A if you'd like. And we'll come over here and click Import All. Now, as you see here, all of our clips have come imported in. We can change this to a film strip view if we'd like. Change this setting just so they're not as long. And voila, we see we have all of our clips imported. Now if we click this little triangle down to media, you'll see our scenes have been collected into their various scene collections according to the metadata that we added. Now this is going to be super helpful in a moment when we start importing the audio. Now go ahead and click Command I, or you can click on your little import button here on the top. And now we're going to go back and we're going to grab our external audio that we recorded. Now, this is already named as such, but we've also added these metadata tags, so they'll get spit into those appropriate folders, keyword collections, just like our video did. But before we do that, I'd just like to point out that there's a nifty little thing here where you can, let's say you were going to be coming back into this Camera Masters folder all the time, you could grab it, drag it over here onto your favorites, and then that folder will be easily accessible right here all the time. Now, the one thing I do wish that they had here in Final Cut was a way to add a keyword collection or add a keyword to a piece of media as you're importing it. Unfortunately, you don't. So let's go ahead and click on our external audio, Command A to select them all, and hit Import All. And now you see you have all of your Scene 1 audio in with Scene 1 clips, all of your Scene 2 audio in with Scene 2 clips, and all of your scene 3 audio in with scene 3 clips. Now if you go up here to import one last time, navigate back out into where you have your camera archives in the media that you downloaded from us, and you'll see that if you double click on one of these, the camera archive opens up. These are the clips that we recorded from the camera. And you'll see over here on the right, the leave file in place option is not available. This is because you cannot leave the camera archive video clips in place. They're inside of an archive wrapped up in package contents. You need to copy these to a library, because once you ejected the camera archive, which is akin to a camera card, you wouldn't be able to have access to those video clips anymore. Also, you may have instances where create optimized media or create proxy media is also grayed out. That means that the footage is either too high res or too low res to be able to take advantage of one of these transcoding options. Now, Xing out of here because we're not going to import from camera archives, the last thing I'll say is that let's say you're in your Finder here and you want to import a clip directly into Final Cut rather than going through the import window. Well, can you do that? Yes. And the great thing is, if you drag a clip into a certain keyword collection, it will automatically add that into that keyword collection. This is a bit of a way to get around not having an add keyword on the import settings. Now, when you do drag and drop it like that, it is going to come into Final Cut Pro according to the preferences that are set up over here in import. So if you have copy to library storage location selected, it will do that. If you have leave files in place selected, it will do that. It will also add keywords according to Finder tags and folders and all this other jazz as well if you just drag directly in. Now let's say you have a project opened up here in the timeline and you do the same thing where you drag and drop a clip from the Finder level into a project or timeline as it's more commonly known. Well, then this clip gets added to the event that this project is contained in. So right now everything is in this media folder, as you can see, the media event rather. And so this clip was added into this event when it was dragged in. Alright, so now next lesson we're going to move on to actually syncing the video and audio. And go ahead and hit Command Z to undo those things we just did. We'll be constantly hitting Command Z to undo things we do throughout the day to get back to a more neutral place.